Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? Welcome to a very fun and potentially unhinged episode of the Health by Haven podcast. Today we're going to be recapping the Cades Cove Loop Lope 2024. Billy, why don't you kick us off?
As the director of this cruise, I have been entitled with the duty of kicking us off. I have no idea what that entails or what Haven wants me to do. Today was the Cades Cove Loop Lope in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
All right, we're going to start by going around and introducing ourselves so all the listeners know who's on the show today. Billy's pouring himself a beverage, and then he'll get started.
I'm Billy Quinlan, age 30, reside in Knoxville, Tennessee. I've been on this show before. I'm Haven's husband/race companion.
Thanks, Billy. I'm Haven, host of the podcast. Billy and I and everyone on the show ran the 10-mile Loop Lope today, so we're going to have everybody introduce themselves.
I'm Jackie, Haven's mom.
I'm Jake, Haven's brother.
Steve, I'm the dad.
Thanks, guys, for being here. Okay, hopefully this will be a fun, lighthearted episode that you guys can hear a little recap of our race. So, as previously stated, today on Sunday, November 10th, I almost said October, Sunday, November 10th, we all completed the Cades Cove Loop Lope 10-mile run. It is in Cades Cove in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And so there's a loop road. You can normally drive it with your car, or some days they have it closed for pedestrians. But today they closed it early this morning so that we could all run the 10-mile loop. Why don't we give a little background? Have you guys run it before? Or maybe, Dad, you can start with how we even heard about the race.
Yeah, so this race is sponsored by the Friends of the Great Smoky Mountains. It's a nonprofit organization that raises money for the park for special projects and what have you. And years ago, they pitched the idea to do this race to the park, and the superintendent at the time agreed to it as a one-time only event, and it happened with great success. But then it wasn't held for several years, and now it's been back now for, I don't know, maybe 5 years. And so I was lucky enough to be involved with helping plan it in the years that I worked at the Smokies, and now we're enjoying it as runners and visitors.
Perfect. Thanks, Dad. I was hoping you would get to the part of how you were involved for our listeners who don't know, because you used to be National Park Ranger and work in Cades Cove. So this was my third go-around running this race. I ran it 2 years ago with Mom, and then last year with Billy. And so it was fun to have. This was our biggest showing yet of the Spanyer Quinlan household. So Jake, do you want to tell us a little bit about why you were interested in running the race and a little bit about your running lately?
Okay, I'll try. I guess I'm the newest one to running, I would say. Probably, I think I started in May to run again. I did run a few 5Ks as a child, but that was a long time ago. So this was my first race since then. But yeah, like I said, I started training again in May, just with super short runs, and then working up to a pretty good spot in the summer or late summer, where I was running maybe 15 miles a week, which is not a ton, but a decent amount. Then unfortunately I started having some hip related problems. So my training kind of went back downhill, which I guess is not ideal for preparing for a race. But luckily I was able to still make it to this one and did pretty okay, I think. And I'm not in too much pain, so that's good.
Well, the best part is that you're not in too much pain. That is good. Sorry that you had some hip issues. But yeah, I'm not glad that you had hip injury, but I was really thinking you were going to beat me today. So you preserved my ego for a little bit longer. No, Jake crushed it. He ran a really great time and came across the finish line strong. And what was yours? 135? Yeah, that's awesome. For 10 miles, that's great. I think that's similar to what Billy and I ran last year. You said you looked it up earlier.
Yeah, last year we were at like 132. So, Jake, we beat you last year and this year. Congratulations.
Ouch. Okay, Mom, how many years have you run this now?
So this is the third year I ran. The first year I wasn't sure I could do the 10 miles, so I did the 5K. Foolishly, I thought, oh, I should run really fast, and got done and realized that was silly because the joy of the race is being in such a beautiful spot and really seeing everything around you. So I came back with Haven a couple years ago, and we really enjoyed our lope around. It's named a lope for a reason, not a big race. And she was patient enough to go slower with me because I'm a much slower runner. And then this year, we kind of all went on our own pace, which is really how I like to race. I just like to run intuitively. And if I feel like running, I run. If I want to walk, I walk. Today, I walked quite a bit because stubbornly, I don't really prepare for a lot of races. I really haven't ran for months, except just little bits with the dog down the road or my running club. So I was definitely sore at the end and finished almost last, but not completely, but still proud of what I did and happy to be out there and not on the couch.
Yeah, you beat everyone on the couch, our favorite saying. So doesn't matter what your time is or what place or anything like that. Yeah, we all ran separate today, which by like mile 5, I was telling them earlier, by mile 5, I was seriously regretting that decision for myself because I went out of the gate way too hot, and I get really claustrophobic at the beginning of races when I have to weave through people, and I get frustrated if I'm on somebody's heels. I'm not very good at being patient at the start, so I just decided to blaze through everyone because I was getting annoyed, to be honest. So yeah, my breathing was already labored at like mile 2, and I was like, oh, this is not going to end well.
Yeah, I mean, that race is really, you could almost make it a trail race for the first mile with the amount of time you get off of the road to be able to go around people who are enjoying their lope. And there's nothing wrong with that. But they might be a little too close to the front of the pack at the start line. And Haven, you did go out fast. Like, you were out of sight by mile 2.5 or 3. I was with Jake for the first 2 miles or so, and then he left me in the dust. Haha, we know how that ended. Yeah, so Haven went out of the gate really hot. I went off-roading for a little bit to try to get around some people. Haven was gone by mile 3. Jake was with me for a couple miles, but I was able to wrap it up just under an hour and 30 minutes. So we beat last year.
What was the time on your watch?
On my watch, it was 1:29:59.
Just in the nick of time. Yeah, mile 2, I was already like breathing really hard. I was like, this is probably not going to go well because I know the hills that are to come, and I'm already like working really hard, and I still have 8 more miles. So by mile 5, when I saw the mile marker, I was like, I kind of wish this was over at mile 5 instead of halfway. And I was seriously regretting my decision to not just run with one of my family members and instead go out guns blazing, because honestly, I had more fun the last 2 years running with Billy and then my mom versus running it so fast. And today was so windy. I don't know if you guys felt the wind as much, but I was wearing a hat because there was a chance of rain, and I wish I wasn't because it kept lifting off my head like a sail. And so I was holding onto my hat and like honestly looking down so that the hat was like pressing against the wind instead of flying off my head. And I feel like I missed out on some of the views, you know? Okay, should we have a little play-by-play of how everyone felt at the race? Dad, you want to start?
Yeah, so I've been running for years, mostly just for fitness for work in the early days. And then when Haven got this wild idea to do a half marathon 10 years ago, I thought, well, I should do that too. And so I soon followed suit. And honestly, that was my first and best distance race of my running experience, whatever you want to call it. So I've been chasing that ideal ever since then. And, frankly, age and arthritic hips and knees are starting to get to me. So I've kind of changed my outlook on racing and running. And, I kind of gotten to the point where I run when I feel like running and I stop and walk when I need to do that. And so I went into it with low expectations, started at the back of the pack, so I didn't feel bad about being passed. I figured, anybody I passed was a small win for me and didn't have to endure the knowledge that people were passing me left and right. And honestly, I felt better than I thought I would for the first 3 to 4 miles. And it all started to slowly unwind at that point. And by like mile 5, my hip hurt. And by mile 7, my knee felt like I had a knife in it. And so I definitely kind of limped across the finish line. But, it's still a victory. So, I've just changed my outlook and decided that, the only bad result is giving up and not doing any of it. So, yeah, I'm happy with it. At the end of every race, my first thought is, yeah, this might be my last one. But, a couple hours later after eating waffles and, drinking a bourbon, that memory kind of fades. So maybe we'll do it again.
Fades or gets fuzzy. Just kidding. I agree that I think anytime crossing the finish line is a huge win. So amazing work. Also, you look strong across the finish. I don't know about limping. I don't think that's accurate.
Actually, ironically, I reached towards my hamstring to feign injury as I was coming across the finish line, and my calf actually seized up, and I almost went down right before the timing mat. So that would have been dramatic, which, I think we can all agree I love some drama.
We all know you also would have crawled across the finish line before not finishing at that point. I think that's where I get a little bit of some stubborn energy to maybe go out the gate too hot. Jake, how was your race?
Yeah, I guess I had a similar experience at the start. We all started kind of together, as Billy mentioned. Felt pretty good, especially once we had some room to go. And I would say the first half, so the first 5 miles were definitely the stronger feeling half. Once there's a pretty big hill up around 5 miles. I don't remember exactly. Definitely was feeling much more tired than I would have liked at that point in the race. But kept going. And then maybe it wasn't even quite 5 miles. I don't know. I was slightly ahead of Billy for a little while. And yeah, then actually I had a slight problem with my Achilles, which I had experienced a couple times during runs. So I had to stop and stretch that out a little bit, but kept going. And then, yeah, at that point, different body parts were taking their turn, having pains. I guess that's the lack of training showing. But kept going as much as I could. The people around me were motivating me for sure. And then, let's see. I remember specifically the 6 mile mark was at the very top of a huge hill, which not only was a big up, but then a really steep and long downhill as well, which can also be tricky to run. Then it was just continuing. I think the second half, my brain was maybe lacking oxygen because I don't remember as much from that part.
Blacked it out.
But then, yeah, just knowing that I'm closer to the finish line than the starting line is a good motivator. And I really thought right at the end, I kept waiting for that runner's high to take me to the finish line. I thought, well, at least when I see the finish line, I want to run a little bit faster, but I was so tired that I just couldn't. So it was a slow ending, but good nonetheless. I was able to run that route one time in training, maybe a month or two ago, probably closer to 2 months. And my time today was actually faster than then. So even though it didn't feel like it, there was some improvement there.
Good. Well, I mean, not to discount any of the rest of our training, but I feel like Jake was the one who was actually probably putting the most focus into training for this race. So that's awesome that, you even maybe if it didn't feel as good, that you did a decent time for what you had practiced up there. And Jake, have you run this race before?
I have not run this race before.
It was his longest race. That's what I was trying to get at. No, it's okay. Yeah, so that's awesome because I guess all the rest of us have at least done it once. So yay, Jake. And I mean, like you said, you had run the loop before, but not in a race. So yeah, I think I was also waiting for the runner's high to kick in, but really it was more the runners. I want this to be over for me today. Mom, how was your race?
Well, my strategy for a race is always to finish and never feel ill. So I take it kind of slower. I really run to inspire my running club kids and let them know that, hey, I'm 6 times older than you, and I just ran this 10-mile race because I really want them to go to 5Ks. And I let them know that, hey, it's really possible. You can do it. So I do enjoy taking kids to 5Ks. And I really run a lot to motivate others. I think that's a big part of it for me. But mostly I just love to be outdoors. So the favorite part for me of a race is to be outdoors. And there's no better race than to run in Cades Cove with no cars. It's just gorgeous. So I stop, take pictures, enjoy myself, chat with people that I might meet on the way. I really like that. I do try to start all my races to at least run a mile. So I ran that whole first mile and actually even went further, which was good because, like I said, I haven't really prepared for this race. And I always run down all the hills. I really like to use the whole gravity thought. I loved seeing that 6-mile sign because I always feel pretty good about that. And I felt really good till that 6 miles. Really, the only pain I had on all of this was in my thighs going up the hills. And I was mostly walking, but they felt really sore. Going down the hills is fine for me. I never have any hip or knee issues. And honestly, I attribute that because since Haven teaches bar, I've been going to bar for a year now. And I really think that cross training helps a lot for my muscles and my legs. So I'm really thankful for that. I was definitely tired at the end. I crashed at the end, had to sit down for a while. But I'm feeling pretty good now.
We love some cross training. Little free plug for Pure Bar there. But yeah, the course elevation, I guess the course profile, we haven't really gone over it. So if you haven't ever been to Cades Cove, it's a very hilly, what you would call undulating hills, up and down the entire time. Some steeper than others, but yeah, it's a little tough on the quads. Even if you have trained, it's a lot of power to the top and control down to the bottom. So makes total sense. But Billy, want to tell us about your race day?
First, I woke up. Well, we did get up really early, but anyway, we got out there for the race, and the beginning of it, of course, felt better. We were having to weave through some traffic. It was earlier in the race, so we're not as tired. But those, was the word undulating? Undulating hills definitely got the best of me on that one. I mean, I run, I think, a decent amount. I've been on here talking about running before, but as you've heard or seen from Haven's Instagram, we've been traveling, and then I had a cold. So I haven't really run in the last 2+ weeks. And then we're like, let's do some undulating hills for 10 miles. I'm going to see how many times I can use that word. So anyway, the hills started to stack up on me by the time I got to I remember the mile 4 sign being like, wait, that's only 4. But we made it through the end of the race. By the back half, I was strategically picking some spots to walk, like when you see a hill and you think you're at the top of the hill and then the hill keeps going. I was picking my spots for some of that, but all in all, it went probably as good as I could have expected. I wasn't really running a ton leading up to it, and it worked out. I had a good time. I was surprised it came out that well.
So remember when earlier this week I was like, I'm really getting the itch to train for a marathon again. Finally, I'm really missing the marathon. I'm missing distance running. I think I killed that again today.
Were the hills too undulating?
Yeah, Billy, too undulating. I'm glad I taught you that word. Yeah, mile 8, I was like, thank God, I only have 2 more miles today, and I'm not only a third of the way through my race. That's how I was feeling. Yeah, my race day, well, I really had no plan. And to be honest, I had no business running the pace that I ran. It was more me being super stubborn because it hurt. It did not feel good. But I ran, actually, I haven't looked at my splits yet. I should pull this up. But my average that my Coros watch said was 8:35, I think. So I ran I already forgot, 1:25:03 for the race, which when I was running and I was being claustrophobic, so I was trying to get out of the crowd, I guess gained on more people than I realized. And then when there was a big bend and you could kind of see who was in front of you on that turn, I was like, oh, there's like actually not that many people in front of me. So then the competitive side of me came out and I was like, I'm going to beat everyone. That clearly did not happen. But I was trying to count the women in front of me because I was like, what if I was the first female, or what if I was in the top 3? And so there was a woman in front of me that I was chasing down for a long time because in my head, I was like, I think she's in third for females. Like I was trying to count the people and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's a third female. So if I catch her, I'll be the third female. And that was my goal for a long time. And I was gaining on her, but I was really having trouble catching her. She was gritty and she was pumping her arm. She was working hard, but she stopped at like mile 5.25 at that water stop. And I was like, ha, now's my chance. So I tried to pick it up as I went by the water station and I could hear her like catching me because I am a horrible uphill runner. I like to keep consistent effort level instead of consistent pace. So I slow down a ton on the uphills, but I mean, it sounds easy, but I am actually, I think, quite a good downhill runner because I can really let my legs go and trust myself that I'm going to catch myself underneath. I used to really try to control down. And honestly, that was like so much tougher on my quads to try and stop myself on every downhill stride. So she was gaining on me on an uphill and I was like, no, I'm too stubborn to get caught. So then I flew down the downhill and it was a really long one. And that's finally when I dropped her. And so in my head the whole time I was like, okay, just don't let any other females pass you. And I thought I had third, but I was the 4th female, which I'm still really excited about. I mean, it's not a big race at all. That's not like a crazy thing or anything. But I did get first in my age group, and it was the cutest little prize I've ever gotten at a race. It was a little bear head on a plaque. So that'll go on my shelf, and I actually am really excited about that. But okay, hot takes. Best part of your race, worst part of your race, or like the course, or what did you love and hate about today's race?
Okay, the best parts were the location, of course. It was really beautiful, and the weather was also really good for us. What was the temperature? 60, a little bit of a breeze, although it did seem like I was running into the breeze more than the opposite. But that was really, really enjoyable and some good motivation. I could just look over and have a stunning landscape. The worst part for me was, the end, which is, I guess, not a surprise. But, that's my take.
Well, the best part for me was going with all of you because I really like it when we all go together. My favorite race when you guys were all kids was when the 3 of you and I ran that reindeer run, one of my favorite pictures of all of us together with our bibs on, being ready. Actually, I think it was at the end of the race, so that was nice. That's only a 5K, which was much easier to do. For me, it's just doing it because a lot of finishing a race like this for me is willpower. So I like being that strong and I like being physically able to do it. I run to try to be a healthier person. And, there were 412 runners actually in this 10-mile race, and I finished 405th, and I'm very proud of that. So the hardest part for me, of course, was just that I sabotaged myself by not practicing and running enough beforehand, and that's why I was a little sore. But really, I'd give that a 5% and the whole rest of the experience a 95.
All 3 dogs want to be part of the podcast today. We're recording this in my parents' house, and they have 2 dogs and Waffles. Our dog is here, and they all want to be a part of it. So if you hear the dogs in the background, don't mind that.
It might be better than what you hear when I pick up the microphone. So, hot takes, best parts of the race. First, mile and a half, 2 miles where I was like, man, I'm so fast. Look at me passing all these people. Respectfully, of course, not trying to squeeze between people when there's no space. Jake talked about the really good weather. I remember last year it was a lot colder, and last year wasn't even a cold race for Cades Cove. So I was very happy that it was very, very temperate for us to be out there early in the morning. I got to see our friend Scott for a second. He and some friends came up from South Carolina to camp and then run some races this morning. So it was always good to touch base with them. I saw somebody in an ETSU shirt at like mile 9.5, 9.75. So that was nice. Gave me a little boost at the end to yell "Go Bucks" as loud as I could. People around me probably didn't love that, so sorry. That was probably the best part. Worst part, maybe the undulation of the. I mean, really though, I'm not a good downhill runner. I can't stand it. I feel like I do better uphill than downhill, and even the uphills were getting me today. But that's just part of the fun when you go run Cades Cove. It's just going to be hills.
Yeah, we're opposite for hills. Like every time we're running together, I'm like, I'll see you at the top. And Billy leaves me in the dust on the uphill, but then I catch him on the downhill. So it works out. Dad, hot takes, best part, worst part.
Yeah, I've been trying to come up with something really deep to say. I think the best part for me, obviously, is, well, number one, finally getting invited on this podcast, because I've been hinting at it for, gosh, I don't know, 20 episodes or something now, and I finally got an invitation. But no, seriously, I mean, for me, the running part, I still love doing it, but I'm not very good at it. So that part is maybe a little diminished for me right now. But I mean, I feel a certain amount of pride having, worked at Cades Cove for 22 years or something. And, I played some role in, starting this race and helping plan it for years. And that part of it is satisfying because I can see how many people go out there and enjoy it. And certainly that's not to claim a lot of credit for it by any means, because there's a lot of people that put way more effort into it than I ever did. So, the bad part of it for me, there really isn't a terrible part. I wish my body held up better over the years. So I felt like, I did 15 years ago when I ran, but, I'm still grateful to be able to do it. So can't complain too much about that.
Dad, obviously you're going to have your own episode. Just waiting for the right timing. But best parts and worst parts for me. Best part, I think, like doing it all together and being in really pretty scenery. And I mean, I prefer cold runs, and I love the cold. Winter's my favorite. I'm ready for it to be cold here. So I'm like annoyed that it's so warm. However, it was nice to run today in like the 60s and not turn into a frozen popsicle at the end as I was cheering in other runners at the finish. I love spectating a run. It's honestly so fun at the end. I love to be the cheerleader. So that was fun. Worst part for me, probably the last 2 miles. I was just so done. I wanted it to be over. The hills are really aggressive, but especially at the end, I feel like the last few miles, it's a lot of hills. I was just looking at my splits, and it's very clear where I was running way too fast and where I was really hurting, because all my splits go between high 7s all the way to mid 9s. So not consistent at all, not even close. But honestly, where the 5K converges with the 10-mile loop. And so they have mile marker signs for the 5K. And it was like 3 miles on the mile marker sign. And I was like, oh my gosh, only 0.1 more miles, because, 5K, 3.1 miles. I was like, 0.1, I can do it. I can do that in my sleep. I'm so close. And then I'm pretty sure that 0.1 was actually like 0.5. It was so long. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Where's the finish? So honestly, that was probably the worst part, even though it was like almost over. I was just ready to be done. Race kids, let's talk about what you ran in. I don't care as much about the attire, but what shoes did you run in, everybody?
All right. So I have Saucony Omni, which I've ran in for many years now. I love them. I love that I can get them out of the box and wear them in a race. I did wear ones today that I'd worn for a while. I love having several pairs of those shoes that I keep for just a race, just for running club, then for good long walks, all the way down to using them at the horse barn. So super comfortable all the way through, and I love them.
Yeah, I'm a Brooks guy. Brooks Adrenaline, I don't know, 23 now or something, I think is what they're on. Shout out to Brooks if you want to sponsor a average Joe. I'm the only shoe that actually fits my wide foot. So, yeah, hit me up sometime.
Brooks, we know you're listening. Why are you holding out?
Okay, I ran today in my Hoka Arahi 6s. I did also wear my Coros watch, Coros Pace 3, which I quite enjoy.
Do you have other details? You look like you're ready to tell us more about your kit.
I wore clothing.
Thank goodness. You sound like Billy when I try to get him to say his race kit.
I love that we could wear shorts this time, because when we went a few years ago, it was snowing, and you start with so many clothing items on and you peel them off, and then you feel like you're carrying them around, because this is one of those races where you can't leave anything on the ground, being that you're in a national park. So it was great to run in just shorts and a wicking shirt. I carried a belt, so I had some snacks on the way and some water, which was nice. And took my phone and took pictures along the way too, since I didn't really care about any time, just finishing.
Billy, what'd you run in?
I don't know why my answers to this may have been unsatisfactory in the past, because I'm fully truthful, as I will be right now. Race kit by Target every time. Same shirt, different shorts, same make and model, just a different color. And I wear Brooks Ghost, I think 15s. Race kit by Target.
Race kit by Target. I wore my New Balance Super Comp Trainer V2. I have not tried the V3 yet. They're a plated daily trainer. I didn't want to wear my racing shoes, but I wanted something with a little extra pop. So I wore those. I wore them last year as well, I think. And my usual Lululemon Fast and Free shorts. Once again, if anyone knows where to get more of these, I am begging you, please message me, because every time I look for them in store or online, they're sold out. And my long line bra. Yeah, it was so warm this year that I literally ran a sports bra and shorts. And last year we were all bundled up. So honestly, kind of nice for the race, but now I'm ready for Christmas weather.
So not that anybody at home is counting, but to summarize, if you're with any of the following brands and wish to have a very, very natural advertiser partnership, Brooks, Hoka, Target, Lululemon, New Balance, Saucony, Coros, Rowan's Creek Bourbon. What else have we got on this one? I think that about sums it up. If you work for any of those companies, please reach out to whatever Haven's email is, and we'd be happy to take you up on the conversation.
Billy's the new Health by Haven business manager.
Forgot to mention the sponsors of the show.
Taking a quick break to have a word from our sponsor, Arranger Paints, an Etsy shop. Steve, why don't you tell us all about Arranger Paints?
Great shop. Got to say, Etsy's search function has kind of let me down. I feel like there's a lot of people out there that really would benefit from coming to the site and checking out the paintings that Steve, the former Ranger, creates.
Wait, did you say me in there? Are you the Ranger who paints?
Steve, an unknown, retired, anonymous park ranger.
What's your name? Next question.
I wish for our listeners that this is a video podcast right now. He pleads the fourth, Billy. He pleads the fourth.
Wrong amendment.
He pleads the fifth.
He pleads that this is an unlawful search and seizure.
I think it might be.
Sponsored by Rowan's Creek Bourbon and Against the Grain Citra Ass Down Hazy IPA. Now I'm going to have to mark explicit.
It's a family podcast. Don't say bad words.
Sorry to the listeners if your children are in the car. I'll put the E on this podcast episode so you know. Arla really wants to be a part of the podcast today. Final thoughts, things you want to share, fun and excitement.
I saw velociraptors.
Ooh, tell us more.
They were actually turkeys.
Did they attack you?
I did see a toy dinosaur in the parking lot afterwards. So, and no, neither the toy dinosaur nor the turkeys attacked me.
Glad to hear it.
Actually, that's ridiculous, but it does make me think that I had a question. Did anybody see anything like weird? I always at a race see weird stuff, either people in weird costumes or like, I don't know, somebody like do something crazy. The lady at the Kentucky Derby mini marathon riding her fake horse around Churchill Downs, that sort of thing. Did anybody see anything weird? Because it seemed like a pretty normal crowd.
Honestly, I forgot about the horse lady, but I wish she knew how much joy she's brought us over the years. The lady riding her stick horse around Churchill Downs during a race. No, I saw a lot of turkey. I was really hoping to find a bear. I did not see a bear, nor did I see any deer. And we actually saw a lot of deer last year. So no, I mean, the only wild animals I saw were squirrels and a lot of turkeys. And they were getting a little close for comfort. I'm not going to lie.
I did see 1 or 2 deer. I'm not sure, because the first time I saw it, it was sprinting across the field, which made me very jealous. And then I saw one in the next field, which I'm not sure if it was the same deer or not.
I did forget the the scaffolding with the start sign blew over in a big gust of wind at the beginning of the race. And I don't think it hurt anybody, but it was pretty dramatic.
It was dramatic. It was very gusty winds today. When we were running through some of the heavily wooded parts, I was like, please do not let any of these trees fall right now. But yeah, that was probably the craziest thing, was the start line arch. That was metal, by the way, not like a balloon arch. Collapse. That was scary.
Yeah, I'd say the wind was a big factor. A lot of times you felt like the wind was coming at you. Only once near the end did I feel the wind was behind me, which was great. But I was very mindful looking up, trying to make sure there weren't any trees that were going to come down, because there were a lot of times since I was way at the end that I couldn't see anyone in front of me or behind me. And I kept thinking, I don't want someone to just find me on the road under a tree.
Yikes. Well, luckily that did not happen. So after our race, we came home and had a fantastic brunch, and now we're enjoying beverages. But all day, everyone has kept wanting to talk about the race, and I keep telling them, save it for the podcast. And now I'm forgetting all the things I was making everyone save. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I finished faster than Jake. I had to do it one more time. I'm really proud of him. He did a great job.
I guess I would just encourage everyone to get outdoors with their family. It's just so much fun, so enjoyable. It doesn't matter if you just take a walk in the park or a walk in your city park, or maybe start with a 5K in town and go your own pace. Really enjoy yourself, be healthy, take care of your health, and be around there for your kids and inspire them.
I love it. What a great sentiment.
I look forward to seeing you all again on my own episode later in the season.
Coming soon. Spoiler alert.
Someone also looks forward to seeing you on an Etsy shop called Ranger Paints.
rangerpaints.etsy.com. Use code HXH10 for 10% off your purchase. There's a lot of paintings inspired by Cades Cove and other national parks around the U.S., so I feel like it's very fitting in this episode. Arlo wants you to go give it a look. I don't know if you heard that, but he was very emphatic about it. What was your mantra of the race? I'll start because Dad's laughing at me. I feel like, what's some encouragement? What's a mantra that some... Not sure if the microphone picked that up, but there's a bird clock in the kitchen, and it's telling us we've been talking too long.
All right, my mantra is really just keep enjoying the outdoors, but I actually sing in my head, "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning" from Oklahoma, kind of on repeat. And near the holidays, I always throw in a few songs as well. So I inspirationally sing in my brain as I run all my races.
I love it. I thought you were going to say, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Mine, I had a few, but Dad, you should be proud. One was, the view is better from the top of the hill. For a little background, I have a little road ID tag that Dad got me many years ago, and the quote on it, it's for like safety, you know, it has your name and phone number of your emergency contact, but for a long time mine said, never make a decision at the bottom of the hill, which I also was thinking today at the bottom of many, many hills in this race. But when Billy and I got married over 3 years ago, our gift from my dad during his speech was new road IDs. And now mine says the view is better from the top of the hill. So I was thinking that a lot today when I wanted to stop and walk on the hills or just stop, full stop and be done. I kept telling myself that. And then also this is like a trick I tell myself on basically every race or training run when I'm like, I'm ready for this to be over. I think about not in miles, but in time. And I tell myself like 30 minutes, it's all over. 20 minutes, it's all over. 15 minutes, it's all over. Think about all the things you do in 15 minutes that you just waste your time doing and you can get through it. And so that helps me. Maybe it will help you.
Mine was, when am I going to get to the top of this hill? This made me think of something else, though. What'd you guys listen to?
Good question. I did not bring headphones because I was hoping someone would run with me. So I listened to the sounds of nature around me.
Hoping someone would run with her when she started the race with me and Jake and immediately took off into the distance. I had my headphones. I listened to different podcasts. No free advertisements, but I'll name them by name. It's Talkin' Baseball. They were given like an end of season, like all-star team show. And then when I needed some artificial adrenaline, I went to one of my regular running playlists featuring a lot of classic rock that Haven is not a huge fan of.
What's your playlist called, Billy?
I think this one's just called Run Rock. I have another one that's a little more tame called Old Man Music. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah, and I just make fun of Billy a lot for listening to his old man music. My other mantra was, where's the bourbon? I'm running for the beer, maybe.
I listened to a podcast as well called Emperors of Rome, which is getting laughs. I don't know why.
When people think this is my Roman Empire, the Roman Empire is literally Jake's Roman Empire.
Yes, it's ancient Roman history podcast. Very, very good. I can recommend it.
Oh, Mom, you already did your mantra. Did you listen to the songs in your head that you sang to yourself?
So my road ID says keep moving. And that's what I tell all the kids. And that's what I remind myself, even though there were a few times that I sat down for a minute and took a break.
And that's allowed. And you still finished, which is awesome. Wait, Jake, do you have a road ID yet?
No.
Oh, we got to get on that. Got to think of a good quote for Jake. Send in your recommendations for Jake's road ID quote. Okay, any final parting thoughts? Does someone else want to do the rapid fire?
I'm going to wait for my own episode.
Coming soon to the Health by Haven podcast. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're still here, you're a champ. It was like your own 10-mile race. We hope that this brought you some laughter while you were doing some chores or driving around, or maybe you're on your own running. And if you didn't like this episode, we don't want to know. We like to think that you had fun listening to us. And you can also download many, many of the fun guest episodes, including our upcoming very own Steve Spanyer, featuring Arlo, the dog who keeps wanting to be on the podcast as well. Have a happy, healthy day. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.